Earlier on this week, a friend was telling me the desperate concerns of a couple who were isolated at home, both with the coronavirus, and anxious that they would not be able to celebrate the Seder as they had done every year of their marriage, with her elderly father and their 2 young adult sons who are currently living away from home. My friend pleaded with them not to tell their sons to go and see their grandfather, but to try and accept that this year's liberation from slavery would necessarily have to be different. Just the 2 of them on their own, without the reassuring presence of family and friends. They are both observant Jews and, unable to use electronic devices on Shabbat or festivals, without the recourse to FaceTime or Zoom, or being able to join an online Seder, must be extremely painful for them. And their weakness in the wake of this illness has only compounded their anxiety and fears. Pesach is about our mythic history, the Exodus from Egypt. It is about the Jewish people, our community, and our connections to each other, to other Jews around the world, sitting around their tables, tasting the bread of affliction and dipping parsley in salt water. It's about family, bringing together our closest family, or becoming part of someone else's family, even if only for a night. It's about seeing the youngest present, asking the 4 questions, and the search for the hidden matzah, the afikomen. How will we hide and find the afikomen this year if our experience of the Seder is to be a virtual one? Actually, a colleague has come up with a virtual search for the afikomen. I'll need to do a bit more research about that. And Pesach is also about the individual. Bechol dor vador, chayav adam lirot et atzmo, ke'ilu hu yatsa mimitzrayim. That in each generation, each individual must see themselves as if they were the ones who actually went out of Egypt. For those of you isolated in households, with your partners or children, or with your parents, it will perhaps be a smaller Seder than usual, but I hope as meaningful and joyful as it is intended to be. But I am thinking particularly of those who are on their own, who are not going to be stepping out of their homes to join family and friends for their Seder, who may not be able to join by Zoom or any other technology, although the telephone does remain a reliable source of being able to listen in and to participate in Zoom calls if you know of people without a smartphone or a computer with a microphone and camera. How can we perform the mitzvah of observing Pesach when we are on our own? Well, one answer to that question can be found in the Torah itself, in Numbers chapter 9. Here, God addresses Moses, telling him to prescribe a delayed Pesach for anyone who has been defiled by a corpse or are on a long journey. And we're all on a long journey here. This Pesach Sheni, second Passover, as it's called, is already there as an alternative in circumstances that make it impossible to celebrate at the right time. It's not that we can't celebrate on our own. The Mishnah says if you're on your own, You can ask yourself the 4 questions. But the Seder really is about being with a community, with family, with friends. And so Pesach Sheni, the second Passover, gives us the possibility as family, friends, or as the LJS community to hold a Seder when we're able to see each other again. A second answer to the question, how can we celebrate the Seder later on, can be found in the Torah portion for this week, in Parashat Tzav, which outlines the instructions for the priests regarding sacrifices. Of the meal offering, the vegetarian option of the sacrifices, the Torah tells us that what is left shall be eaten by Aaron, the high priest, and his sons, and that it shall be eaten, you guessed it, as matzot, unleavened cakes. No leaven shall be baked in it. And the great medieval grammarian, poet, and biblical commentator, Abraham ibn Ezra, no doubt thinking of the festival of Pesach that was imminent, helpfully tells us, Hu ha'ikar b'matzot Pesach. This is the core commandment of Pesach. The eating of matzah, unleavened bread. So even if we are only able to taste matzah on the first night of Pesach and say the blessing over it, we will have fulfilled the core commandment of Pesach. Liberal Judaism, with its reverence for tradition, has always sought to adapt and change according to the circumstances of the times in which we have lived. It's the mark of a dynamic, living faith and a way of life. There is continuity, but there is also change. The new song which we sing to God, the forms by which we formulate the highest truths. As we anticipate the festival of Pesach next week, let us help each other to celebrate in ways that have spiritual purpose and meaning for each one of us. And let us look forward to the Passover of the future, a Pesach Sheni, a second Pesach, when we can gather together once again. Kein Yehi Ratzon. May this be God's will, and let us say, Amen.